all OEMs struggle to make money on their lower end cars. It's always been part of the automotive industry. Margins are very tight on smaller A and B segment vehicles. I think they're getting the timing just about right. They could maybe have come into the market a little bit earlier. I think the first sort of smaller car is going to be something called the ID2 All, which will be like what we call a B segment crossover, so sort of VW T-Roc sized, T-Cross size sort of battery electric vehicle. I think that's the right product for the time in terms of boosting sales at the lower end of the market, trying to get mass adoption of battery electric vehicles, and then the ID2 will join the range, which is equivalent of an electric Polo, and then, as you've mentioned, the ID1. So I think maybe they could have brought those cars to market a little bit quicker, but I think overall, I think the timing is just about right.
In terms of the outlook for 2025, Volkswagen today giving a fairly muted outlook, citing, no surprise, the uncertainty around the macro, increasing trade restrictions, geopolitical tensions, and increasing competition. How do you think Volkswagen is positioned to weather the storm of what's happening geopolitically and trade-wise?
I think it's doing okay. I think it's just about where it needs to be. They've obviously announced this huge change last year just before Christmas to really try and reinvigorate the Volkswagen passenger car brand operations in Germany. It's domestic operations. I'm sure you'll talk more about this with Mr. Analyst later on. They're talking about actually 35,000 jobs from the domestic sort of headcount. The factories and the components factories. I think Arno Antlitz and CEO Oliver Bloom wanted to do more. I think they'd like some plant closures. It's obviously very politically difficult in Germany. It's incredibly, the unions are very strong, the works councils are very strong. So as ever with these things in Germany, they came to a sort of slightly compromise agreement. But I think they're getting themselves where they need to be. I think it's going to be tough for every OEM this year, not just Volkswagen, for the reasons they've correctly outlined. The world looks a very uncertain place at the moment. Markets look very uncertain. Business consumer confidence is not great, so I think they're doing all they can. I think for me, VW's biggest issue is possibly Audi. I think they know that as well, and I think they really need to sort of reinvigorate the Audi brand and get that working again, get some really good cars out there, and get that really starting to make some money again.
Tim, when it comes to Audi, they're trying to shift into a different gear in the Chinese market, all this while they're navigating some of the trade tensions and tariffs. But in terms of China, what they say is that from 2026 is when they hope to have a larger scale or take hold on a larger scale in the market in China. A lot of the automakers, including Volkswagen, now have a China problem. And I've got to say, I just saw the Xiaomi car in person last week at Mobile World Congress. And I wonder whether the Chinese want cars in future or they want connected devices, a large connected device on the road. What is the China problem as you perceive it for a lot of the big automakers, including Volkswagen?
Well, I mean, Volkswagen have traditionally been the dominant they were the leading manufacturer in terms of volumes and presence there and share for quite some time. And I think obviously BYD have now overtaken them. They are advantaged by having that early mover advantage in China. It's an incredibly competitive market that's getting ever more competitive, as you rightly say, as we move towards software-defined vehicles. A phone on wheels for want of a better expression. They are realigning their strategy there. There's going to be more bespoke vehicles for the Chinese market. They're moving more R&D emphasis to China, so it's going to be more sort of let's build and develop vehicles for China specifically. I think that has to be the right decision. But I think it's a very, very, very difficult market, incredibly competitive. All these new Chinese entrants coming in with great cars. I mean, BYD have done an amazing job. There's no doubt about it. As Oliver Bloom very memorably said during the staff negotiations last year, with the unions to try and downsize the headcount of the business in Germany, there's no more free checks coming from China. And I think he summarised that very well. But they have an existing strong presence there, and they're going to reinvigorate that presence, and I think they'll do well doing that.
Tim, let's turn to Tesla because the stock is plunging in recent weeks. The links that we've seen from Elon Musk to Doge, concerns that there's a customer backlash too because of some of the positions he's been taking politically, not just in the United States, but also around far-right parties in Europe. The market now overnight concerned about the prospect of a recession, and we know if that were to be forthcoming, it could impact consumer spending. How are you thinking about names like Tesla in the United States?
Yeah, I think I mean I have to be diplomatic here. I mean, there's certainly certain elements of Tesla's traditional buyer